crafty friends. Today I'm going to be working on my quote journal. I'm just doing a little flip there to show you kind of how far I am. Not as many as I've done before, but I'm glad that I'm still working on this project. It does bring me a lot of joy to work on it because I feel like I get to try different things in this journal. So I'm gonna start working on this page by adding some clear gesso, which I showed you there in a second, and some of the colors of the spray paints that I will be using. That is clear gesso, which is the first time that I've used. I normally use the white one, and I recently visited a scrapbooking store, which there's some great news coming out about that scrapbooking store, which I will share with you later at the end of the month. There's something coming up that has to do with that store. So anyways, I got that. I did just a light covering on both pages. That is going to prevent the paper from crumbling or warping when I start using those spray inks. The majority of those are by Heidi Swapp. Those are the Color Shine. I really like those because they tend not to warp the paper, as others do. For some reason, I don't know why, but her spray inks don't damage. I don't want to say damage, but obviously do what water would do to paper. So I'm adding different colors. This is going to be just to heads up to give you an idea what I'm going to be working on. This is going to be an ocean theme page, and that's why I've chosen different shades of blues and aquas and a little bit of seafoam green. I'm going to call it that. I don't know what the color that ink is, but it's that pretty turquoise color. So I'm using those what I'm going to call seafoam, or I don't know, those foams right there, texture foams. And I'm gathering, I wanted to add a darker color. And so I went ahead and tried to grab my acrylics, and I had found this really dark blue, but as you can see, if you saw there a second ago, I have actually ran out of that color. So I used the end tip of my brush and just pulled up a little glob. And then that's the only thing that I'm using there. And then I end up using my finger because it's stuck in there, and I want to add more to that upper corner. And don't worry, the brush strokes there, they're gonna disappear right there by me using that foam again, or sponge, sea sponge. Yeah, that's a better name. It was really hard, so what I did is I put some water on the sponge to make it soft and more pliable. And I had this other lighter blue that's just acrylic paint, and it did the trick. I wanted it to be darker, but or at least have some spots that were darker. I want you to also notice that the position of the paint, when you are working on a overall spread like this one, and you're looking at both pages as if it was one, you want to concentrate your design into two corners, and that just seems to be what works. It attracts the eye, and that's the reason behind we seem to like to see things, the eye moves on your pages according to where your items or your paint or your stickers, whatever you're using, where they are positioned. So when you're working on something like this, try to be random. Don't stick with applying everything in one direction or in one location. So when you look at it, just try it and see. That's how I do it. I look at the page or at the design, and I think, does this look attractive, versus if I put something somewhere else and then I just get a funny feeling about it, and then I end up making the change. So I dried it, by the way. I went ahead and dried it off camera. I didn't want this to be a long video. I'm going through all of my stencils. Most of those are by the workers. Oops, not the workers. The workshop craft. Oh my gosh, I can never say that. The Crafters Workshop. Oh my gosh, the Crafters Workshop. That one right there, the white one that you see there, is actually by Studio Calico. And I because I'm talking and then I miss some things and the video's, you know, it's going so fast. Did you see that flip-flop? If you didn't, you need to rewind it. It's actually a piece of flip-flop, and I used that when I was teaching a mixed media class a long time ago. I bought some brand new flip-flops and I cut them because the bottom and the top produce a really cool texture. So I'm using just a Ranger ink dabber that I'm using to apply. This is acrylic paint as well. And I'm just rubbing it on top of that stencil so that it's leaving a little bit of a wave. Now look at the pattern on how I did that. It's just going straight down on both sides. I don't like that. I realized that I should have made it a little bit more scattered, but I fix it by using this next stencil here. And again, this one is by the Workers, oh my gosh, the Crafters Workshop. Why does my brain not work? The Crafters Workshop. So I love this new stencil. I just got it when I went to when I was in Vegas and I visited a scrapbooking store over there, and it's one of my favorites right now, and it is perfect to kind of create a bubbly, you know, effect, a texture on this ocean theme layout. And now because I positioned those, I don't feel too bad on having those other white, the stencil, the little wavy lines going straight. And holy squirrel monkeys, did you see? That's almost a perfect circle. No one, a human being, cannot possibly make a perfect circle. I'm not saying mine is, but it looks very, very good. I was shocked when I was editing this video. How, you know, pretty nice circle there. So I wanted to add paper. I was trying to figure out how to use more paper to add more texture. There's another awesome circle. And I decided to make it easy and just use paint and, you know, keep the layout flat. I didn't want to, you know, make it thicker and, you know, puffier by adding more stuff on top and covering basically the background. So I decided to also make it easy in case you want to work on this. And I just, you know, stuck with circles as best we can, right? We make the circles as best we can. And those are little sand dollars that I was trying to imitate there, and then more bubbles. And I go ahead and add the paint, but then I also try to rub off the center so they look like they're a little transparent. And here's another tip that I have for you when you're working on things that when you're adding items to your layout, in my case this circle, you need to go off the page. Not everything has to be exactly in the middle or perfect, you know, all the way. So I added that little bubble like it's coming off the page, and you'll see me add some other things here that are coming off the page or kind of floating out from the page. I love the blues and the turquoise, but I wanted to add more color, just one more. And coral, right? That's what I'm gonna call this. Coral tends to be bright. I should have added some yellow. I think yellow would have looked beautiful here, but so I mixed this red acrylic paint with some orange to make it a little bit not as red, but not that bright orange either. And then I just use my little handy dandy little brush, skinny brush there, the same one that I used to create the bubbles. And I just, you know, kind of do little branches. And there is my off the page little, what did I call that? Coral? Yes, coral. And because this is supposed to be the bottom of the ocean, I guess, you know, there's actually, you know, the bottom of it. So most of my little drawings there are going to be focused at the bottom. Then I go back and add a little bit more details to those little bubbles. I put a little, like if it's shining, you know, there's a light shining. And since I was working upside down on the other side, I had to make sure that I kept that little shine, the light, where the light was coming from. in the same, going in the same direction as the ones at the bottom. So like magic, I've already printed my quote, and now that I've looked at this, I wish I would have printed it in white paper. I think it would have stand out a lot more, but hey, that's how I did it. This is a very light blue, pastel-y blue color that goes well with the page, but I feel that white probably would have made them stand out more. But it's okay, I left it that way, and I'm happy with it. So I save you the step of watching me glue that together, and then I cut them because I want it to be spread throughout the, both pages. These are my most favorite pens at the moment. I think I try to use them as much as I can, and these are by Recollection. I have two of them, and they come in two different, the tips are two different sizes. And then just to make those little signs pop a little bit more, I do a little bit of doodling all around them with a black pen. And then this is another new technique that I'm loving, especially on mixed media. I've heard it called cosmic or stellar or something like that, because it kind of reminds you of little stars. And so I'm adding a whole bunch of little dots, white dots, especially on the darker areas. So because obviously they're gonna stand out more. So I'm just adding little tons of dots, which kind of also represents, in this case, more bubbles, I guess, as this is in the ocean underwater. And so I sped up this part really fast so that I wouldn't bore you, but it still takes a long time for me to add them. And then, boy, I'm loving how this is looking. At first with mixed media, you never know, but I think because you can keep adding layers, you can, it's almost like fixing it as you go. There is no sketch to this because with mixed media, I mean, it's really hard to decide which direction you're gonna go. So those, you'll see me use two of these little bottles here. They're called Liquid Pearls, and these are by Ranger. And I just got those 2 days ago. And the tip is very fine, so it allows you to create almost like enamel dots. But in this case, I'm just using them to create more algae. All of them at the bottom of the page in different sizes. And I use two different colors again, just to kind of add a little bit more dimension. They're very subtle, but at the end of the video, I'll do a little close-up so you can see them. So that is a brand new bottle, so I had to cut the little tip there. And then I always squeeze it on a different piece of paper first to make sure that it's not gonna be clogged. And then when I squeeze it on my work, it shoots out a big blob of paint. So I go back and I add a few more of those right next to the darker green, and it just added a little bit of shimmer to the page and definitely more texture. And guys, I'm gonna be coming up here close to the end, so I wanted to start telling you. I'll have close-ups at the end. I will add all the details of the products that I have used. Please let me know if you have more questions. Or any questions, not more questions, but any questions. And just experiment with mixed media. It is so much fun. It's very liberating because you cannot go wrong with it. You can also keep making adjustments as you go. Always dry in between your colors so that they don't mix and create, just kind of a ugly dark color. I'm adding a few more bubbles, and that's going to be it. It was fairly easy in the sense that I didn't need there wasn't a lot of cutting or gluing. It was just a fun painting. I love the quote in the sense that, well, I'll read it to you first. It says, "The art of being happy lies in the power of extracting happiness from common things." And in this case, the happiness that came from this common thing, it was the painting, you know, the painting and the just spraying the color. It didn't have anything to do with the ocean, but the ocean brings happiness to me. I love the ocean. I live like 6 miles away from it. You would think I'm there all the time, but I'm not. During summer, we sure go there a lot. The last thing I'm going to add here, just to add one more layer of texture and to make it a true mixed media project, I have used paint and sprays and stencils, some paper, right? And now I'm using some enamel dots. The little stars are by Felicity Jane, and they're so cute. I'm kind of sad that I'm using so many of them, but I am not hoarding anything else anymore. So I use what I have whenever I can. Every layout is absolutely worth it. So then I go back, and of course I have to add one more thing. I still felt like you needed a little bit of the darker colors, or a little bit something that would stand out. So I grab my Glimmer Mist, and that one is by Tatter Angels. And I went upstairs to get it so that I knew the name. And I wanted those little, the phrases there, the paper, the words there to stand up a little bit more. And so I learned this trick when I took a class with Christy Tomlinson. It took me a second there. I totally picture her face, but the name escaped me for a second. I took one of her mixed media classes a long time ago, and it was kind of cool to learn to add some shadows to your, if you were using paper, whether it was a paper piecing creation or just something like this. And I use that, just a little brush to add it. The paper itself was absorbing it, and that was okay. It just created just a little bit more texture there, and also a little bit of the shadow, which is what I was after. So that is all, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you take the time to get your fingers covered in paint like I did here. It was a lot of fun. So don't be afraid to experiment with mixed media. There is no way you can go wrong with it. So thanks again. Until next time. Bye.